All right, good evening, everybody. David Paul here in the KHOU 11 Weather Center. It is a Wednesday evening, and we do indeed have our first tropical outlook for possible development in the Atlantic Basin of the 2026 hurricane season, and it is on our doorstep here in the south and west Gulf of Mexico. Hurricane Center says that area has a 10% chance for development over the next 7 days. I think more specifically, they believe a little piece of energy, there's a little center to a little tropical wave here that's come across Central America from the Pacific. That's the spot, and when it gets here, as we head through the weekend into early next week, they say 10% chance for development. And if you've been watching us the past several days, we've been watching the Gulf with a little bit more suspicion. Some larger scale patterns were suggesting that there would be more lift, more rain in the Gulf, that we might see some energy come across Central America and produce something in the Gulf, and something indeed may try to get going out there. Now, it's interesting because it is happening right where statistically we usually see June or early season development in the Gulf, the Northwest Caribbean, or up the East Coast. So there's our spot, expected to perhaps 10% chance of developing right there where statistically we would expect that to happen. If this were to become a tropical storm before moving inland, Arthur is the first name on the list. I think it is very unlikely that this becomes Arthur, but it's not out of the question. So you've got very warm water here. You've got a spot where we have perhaps a little rotation moving into, but modeling on this, and we'll get to the modeling, but just it looks like if something's going to try to form, it's going to be right here as we head through the weekend, and that is so close to land that we'll be interacting with land. So, you know, given more room over more open water, this would have a higher chance of developing, but because of its proximity to land, it looks like it's going to struggle to have enough runway to develop into a named either a depression or a tropical storm. So as we look down here right now, there is nothing going on here in the Bay of Campeche. There is plenty of scattered thundershower activity, Northwest Caribbean, and that is part of what's left of Christina. Christina was a tropical storm that developed right here off the coast of San Salvador, sat here for a day or two, drifted inland, has dissipated to just a depression or a remnant depression, but enough vorticity, a little twist has come across Central America and planted itself here in the far northwestern Caribbean Sea. And so that's why the Hurricane Center's put a little X there, and they think what there is of this is going to be drifting into here, and over the weekend that's where we have that 10% chance for development. So it's going to take a few days for this to play out. And as we zoom in down here, and I did put on the surface streamlines, you know, right now we don't see any closed low. What we do see is a little bit of a hint of a little, you see the streamlines coming in here, then bending. The easterlies kind of bending to the south and west. So there's a little bit of a bend there. What we have is an open wave. So that's an open wave right now, just flowing and making like a wave pattern. If we're going to see development down here, we're going to need to see these winds close off all the way around 360 degrees. That would be a closed low, and if that were to form here, we would have ourselves a tropical depression. So that's what we're kind of looking for when we look at those surface winds. Looking at modeling on this, we go between now and Saturday, and indeed that moisture with the remnants of Christina does come into the southwest Gulf. That's the greenish rain. The isobar you see here is the European model, which does close off a very broad, weak low. You know, if this is going to be something that is intensifying, what we'd want to see are concentric rings indicating pressure dropping and intensifying over a very small area of ocean. That would be a rapidly developing system, but we don't see that on the modeling. What we see is one isobar closing off. So, you know, even if something does form here, it looks like it would be very weak. This is why they only have a 10% chance for development. We're just not seeing very aggressive isobar development here with this system. Okay, so that's Saturday. So what this would do is, if this does begin to get a little bit of a broad low, even a broad low, it's kind of like an ice skater pulling in their arms when they spin. If they're going to spin a little faster, it pulls in the arm. So this actually pulls some of the precip closer to it and away from Houston. So instead of having a good high rain chance on Saturday, this actually lowers the rain chance in Houston on Saturday. And we'll go into Sunday, and at that point, you see the moisture moving a little bit further north and west. No collection of isobars, so we're not, at the moment, models here are not forecasting anything of a tropical depression or tropical storm. We'll see if that changes. Again, if it does, it's so close to land, it'll interact with land, and that will probably keep it from developing at all, but we'll have this slug of tropical moisture. So this is going to be a great example of, a weak tropical system, maybe not even a depression, but the moisture that these tropical waves can bring with them will be the threat, just simply the moisture. And that alone is going to increase our rain chance as it works its way into Houston as we go into Sunday afternoon, Monday, Tuesday. But look what's coming from the north. Another player is this cold front. So that is pushing south. And you can see as it pushes into Dallas on Sunday afternoon, rain and thunder with that front. Well, this front, when I put this in motion, watch how this pushes into the Houston area, southeast Texas, going into Monday. That right there, that is a wet weather pattern. Tropical moisture that then is just sitting over southeast Texas and Louisiana. A surface front, it's June. This is the setup for flash flooding. It just is. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are going to be weather impact alert days. Stay close to the forecast with us as we head toward Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because tropical moisture, frontal boundary approaching, it's June, the atmosphere is just wide open for rain and thunder here, and that is a flood setup. That's a flash flood setup at best. So that's what we're looking at going into early next week. Plus we've had all the rain, so our ground it's not completely saturated, but we've had a lot of rain, so it's not like we're starting out with drought like we did a couple of months ago when our wet weather pattern began. That's the broad picture. A little closer view, here's Friday. There's the leading edge of the tropical moisture. So Friday is still hot and humid for us. Saturday, it looks like, the edge, the real thicker moisture is still between Houston and Brownsville. So, we'll have a little better chance for a scattered shower, but not much on Saturday. But the humidity will come up. Heat index is maybe 105, 106 with the heat and humidity on Saturday. We go into Sunday, and I may have to bump rain chances up a little bit more. I have raised them a little bit Sunday. That's a lot of tropical moisture. That's probably a sea breeze, scattered shower, and thunder shower. You could get a heavy downpour on Sunday. But there's the front approaching Sunday afternoon. And then going into Monday, you can just see, there's the pool of really, really deep tropical moisture. And it's the Texas coast and Louisiana. So I've written in here the bottom line. Slow moving front, tropical moisture equals a heavy rain setup. So, if you live in a low-lying area, live in a flood-prone area, really anybody, just make sure you're staying close to the forecast with us, because that is a very heavy rain setup. And it's, I'm talking about Houston. This is where we're broadcasting from. But, Matagorda Bay, down to Corpus Christi, down to Padre, Lake Charles, Alexandria, Monroe, Lafayette, Jackson, Mississippi, you are involved in this same setup with this plume of deep moisture, and these fronts act as they lift the atmosphere. When you lift that moist air, it cools, condenses, clouds, rain. And when you have tropical moisture, which means the vertical column of the lower atmosphere is beginning to get completely saturated, that's when you can get these rainfall rates of 3, 4, 5, 6 inches per hour. Absolutely. When we look at rain total forecast, so this is just Saturday and Sunday. It's not a lot of rain. There will be some scattered showers, I think most likely on Sunday, but for most of the southeast Texas area, you can see into Alexandria and then down the coast of Victoria, out to San Antonio and Austin, it's mostly less than half an inch, maybe an inch in some spots, from scattered showers Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when you add up those 3 wet days, you've got a lot of coverage of 2 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 8 inch rain totals. And when you look at this QPF graphic, precipitation forecast graphic, you know, what I noticed on the latest run is this. There's a bullseye here of 5 to 8. Just because this is right over Beaumont and Sabine Lake doesn't mean that's exactly where that rain total is going to be. What a model like this is trying to say is, hey, within this region, there are going to be a lot of spots that get 1 to 2, a lot of spots in the yellow that get 2 to 3, and yes, that could be Katy Brenham, even though on this particular run you weren't lit up there in those colors, and you could get some spots 3 to 5, 5 to 8, you know, right in the heart of where you are. So it's a suggestion. It's not like that's where the heavy rain is going to be. It's a suggestion for this region. We saw this same type of modeling the last wet week of weather we had 10, 11, 12 days ago, where the modeling was suggesting over a 2-day period we would see 3 to 5, and what we saw in many neighborhoods was in one afternoon you had 5, 6, 7 inches of rain in one afternoon. So this is likely underdoing the rainfall potential for the 3-day period of Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And there's our weather impact alert, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So leading up to that, it is going to be uncomfortably hot. Feels like temperatures well over 100. Highs 90, 91, 92. Normal this time of the year for Houston is 92. So, and I mention this because there's so many folks who will be out at the Fan Fest for the watch parties to watch the games. Mexico, South Africa kickoff at 2 o'clock. Thursday afternoon. I imagine there'll be some people out there wanting to get together and root on your team in east of downtown. Make sure you are preparing as if you're playing in the event. And then it turns very wet. Now again, we're not expecting storm winds. We're not expecting winds with this. This would be a heavy rain from tropical moisture coming off the Gulf with this front coming in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's a very wet weather pattern. So that's where we stand. We're here every night at 9, keeping you updated as we approach this. And our next live broadcast is KHOU 11 News at 10 o'clock. We'll see you then.